Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My name's Hudson, I'm 35, and up until recently, I thought I had everything figured out. I was married to Jenna, she's 32 now, and for 7 years, things looked solid on paper. Our relationship seemed typical from the outside. I mean, nothing fancy. No whirlwind romance or dramatic ups and downs. Just stable. I built my construction company from nothing. Literally nothing. I started with just me, an old used F-150 that rattled every time I braked too hard, and a set of tools that barely filled half a garage. The first few years? Hell, 80-hour work weeks were the norm. There were nights I slept in the truck just to save on gas because I had to crisscross the state to bid on every possible job I could find. I'd be parked outside some job site, eating a gas station sandwich at midnight, just hoping the next day's pitch would land. I'm not saying this to brag, but I gave everything to make this company real. I missed my best friend's wedding because we had a commercial build running behind schedule, and finishing it meant we'd stay in the black for that year. One winter, I worked through a bout of pneumonia. I could barely breathe, but I showed up every day because losing that client would have sunk us. Every dollar I made, I poured back into the business, better equipment, better trucks, hiring solid guys I could rely on. I didn't take shortcuts. I couldn't afford to. And through all of it, I thought I was building something not just for me, but for us. Jenna never worked a day during our marriage. That wasn't an issue for me. That was our deal. You focus on your dreams, babe, and I'll take care of the house, she told me early on. It seemed fair at the time. We were a team, right? But what taking care of the house ended up meaning was something else entirely. She used my money to hire a cleaning service. Takeout became our regular dinner planned for, sometimes 5 nights a week. And those so-called dinner parties? Supposedly for networking, but they always seemed to be packed with her friends. Never mind. She'd redecorate the living room when she got bored. I counted 3 full makeovers in 7 years, new rugs, curtains, sometimes new furniture altogether. I didn't argue. If it made her happy, fine. I wanted her to have a life she loved. That's what you do when you love someone, right? So I gave her everything. Brand new Audi, personal trainer, shopping whenever the mood struck her. Meanwhile, I was still wearing the same 5 t-shirts in rotation, driving a beat-up old car with 100,000 miles on it. Not because I couldn't afford better, but because I'm practical. She never once had to worry about bills, and I never complained. Not once. Our home. It was nice. Not some massive mansion or anything, but definitely one of those upper-middle-class spots with a big yard, quiet neighborhood, good schools. We had a dog, no kids. And from the outside, people probably thought we were one of those perfect couples. Successful, smiling, put together. Jenna was that girl who turned heads everywhere. Charismatic as hell. She could walk into a room and have everyone hanging on her every word in 5 minutes. That used to make me proud. And no, I wasn't jealous. I trusted her. Completely. I worked late most nights. The company was growing fast, which was great, but it also meant I was burning the candle at both ends. Managing multiple construction sites, coordinating with contractors, dealing with picky clients, and wading through endless city permits. It was no joke. One night, I was at the office probably around 10 p.m., trying to finish up bids for 3 different commercial projects that were all due by the end of the week. I was drained but pushing through when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Brian. He's a buddy of mine who owns a restaurant downtown. Good guy, no drama. Brian, hey man, is Jen out of town? 'Cause I swear I just saw her at the Orchid with some dude. The Orchid, obviously not its real name, isn't your average date night place. It's upscale, borderline pretentious. You don't eat there unless you're celebrating something or trying hard to impress someone. Minimum $300 on dinner. Easy. My stomach dropped. Jenna had told me earlier that evening she wasn't feeling well and planned to stay home. I replied, me, you sure it was her? Brian, dude, she was literally 2 tables away. And they weren't acting like casual friends, if you know what I mean. I just sat there staring at the screen. My first instinct was to make excuses for her. Maybe it was a cousin. Maybe an old friend in town. Something innocent. Something explainable. The next morning, I tried to stay calm. While we were having coffee, I played it casual. So what did you end up doing last night? I asked, keeping my tone light. She didn't blink. Oh, nothing really, she said, stirring her coffee. Watched some Netflix and went to bed early. Still feeling kind of crappy. She lied. Straight to my face. That was the moment everything shifted. I'd always believed in trust. I never went through her phone, never tracked her location, never questioned her when she said she was going out with friends. I thought that kind of stuff was toxic. But now I had a reason. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop and logged into our shared bank account. At first, nothing seemed off. Groceries, gas, her trainer, Amazon orders, normal stuff. But then I saw it. A $2,800 charge at the Orchid. From 2 nights ago. I felt my chest tighten. $2,800? That's 3 months of car payments. That's half a roofing job for one of our clients' duplexes. Jenna didn't have her own credit card. We shared everything, one account, one line of spending. So where the hell did this charge come from? The next day, I made sure to get home early and grab the mail before she could. That's when I found it, a credit card bill in her name. From some bank I'd never even heard of. I opened it, hands shaking. The balance? Over $15,000. 15 grand, gone in 6 months. I scanned the itemized list: hotels, restaurants, boutique stores, spa treatments, and jewelry. Lots of jewelry. She wasn't just buying things for herself. These were gifts. She was spoiling someone. Not with her money, with mine. That was the moment the gloves came off. I waited until the next night. Same routine. She went to bed. I waited a while, then picked up her phone from the nightstand and stepped into the hallway. It wasn't my proudest moment, not even close. But if your wife is lying to your face, you stop caring about what's polite. There was one number that kept showing up, over and over, always late at night, or at random times during the day. The calls were always wiped from her call history. Amateurs do that kind of thing. What Jenna didn't realize is that they still show up on the phone bill. I logged in, pulled up the records, and there it was, one number, repeating over and over. Late at night, middle of the afternoon, random hours. Always him. One afternoon, while she was out running errands, I dialed the number. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. Hey, you've reached Miles. Leave a message. Miles. Who the hell was Miles? For a second, I seriously thought about leaving a message. Hey Miles, this is the guy whose wife you're banging, just thought we should connect. But I stopped myself. That would have been satisfying in the moment, but it wouldn't get me what I needed. Instead, I went digging. A quick search, a couple of clicks, and there he was, Miles Stevens. Corporate attorney. One of the slick-looking guys working at one of the big-name firms downtown. Strong jawline, smug smile, 2 perfect suits. Yeah, I could see the appeal. They weren't connected on Facebook, no photos together, no likes, no obvious signs, but I kept looking. And once I knew what I was hunting for, it didn't take long. A few common exchanges on public posts stood out. Flirty, subtle, just enough to know they'd been circling each other for a while. I could have confronted Jenna right then, shown her what I found, watched her scramble for lies. But I didn't want excuses. I didn't want half-truths or tears or some half-baked story about emotional distance. I wanted hard proof. Undeniable. Something she couldn't lie her way out of. I know my way around tech, at least the basics. So I installed a home security system, cameras in the living room, kitchen, the entryway. All the common areas. It was my house too, completely legal. I didn't put any in the bedroom or bathroom. I wasn't trying to be a creep. Just smart. I waited until she was at her yoga class, then installed everything. When she got home, I played it off casually. Hey, company had a good deal on a security package. Figured it wouldn't hurt, you know? With all the porch piracy and break-ins lately. She barely reacted, just nodded, and went back to scrolling through her phone. That night, while she was in the shower, I backed up her phone. Again, not proud of it. But when your wife is lying to your face, the rules change. I needed to know the truth. And what I found, it wasn't just cheating. It was betrayal, calculated betrayal. The kind that made me question if I ever actually knew the woman I married. So there I was, weekends spent playing detective in my own damn home. It wasn't how I imagined spending my nights, but it was still a hell of a lot cheaper than watching her take half my company, my house, and walk away clean. It didn't take long. Within the first week, the cameras caught everything. One night, while I was working late at the office, Jenna brought Miles into our house. The same house I busted my ass to pay for. She walked in with him like she owned the place, laughing, kicked off her shoes, led him to the living room, the couch I bought. She poured him a drink from the bar I stocked. And then they sat there and started talking. Like it was nothing. Like I didn't exist. Only it wasn't small talk. It wasn't some flirty nonsense. It was worse. It was strategy. I watched the footage later, jaw clenched so tight it felt like my teeth would crack. Jenna sat there next to him, legs crossed, swirling her wine like she was at some boardroom pitch meeting. Once we file the papers, she said, clear as day, we need to ask for at least half the business. She leaned in a little closer and added with this smug little smile. Walker Construction is worth a fortune. Now Miles, who I now realized wasn't just some smooth-talking corporate suit, but a full-blown divorce attorney, wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was coaching her on how to gut me in court like it was just another case file. I sat in the office one night, staring at the playback, jaw locked, fists clenched, as his voice came through clear on the audio. Just keep track of every time he doesn't come home for dinner, or misses something because of work, Miles said smoothly, like this was all standard operating procedure. We're building a case that he was emotionally absent. Then Jenna chimed in, nodding like a student soaking up wisdom. Should I also make notes about the charity stuff I've organized? And the event planning? Exactly, Miles replied. Make sure you're the one managing all the social events and house stuff. We need to show that you contributed to his success. Emotionally, socially, it all counts. I felt like I was being mugged in my own home. This wasn't infidelity anymore, it was espionage. They were treating my life, my business, like a chessboard. And I was the idiot king they planned to corner and knock over. Jenna wasn't just cheating, she was plotting, calculating, systematically laying out how to ruin me financially. And all the while smiling at me across the dinner table like everything was fine. I kept watching the footage, kept compiling. Each lie she fed me, going to yoga, brunch with Katie, just grabbing coffee with the girls. All of it was followed by security footage of her dressed to kill, hopping in her car, and heading straight into her affair. Sometimes she'd come home after, all sweet and sleepy, climbing into our bed like nothing had happened. The cold-bloodedness of it made me sick. That's when I knew I had to step up my game. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war. So I went full amateur spy. I'd park across the street from fancy restaurants I knew they liked, slouch down in the seat with a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses on like I was auditioning for a low-budget detective flick. Felt ridiculous as hell, but it worked. Within a week, I had what I needed. Photos. Clear, damning photos. I took myself, Jenna, and Miles sneaking into hotels, holding hands at restaurants, laughing over wine like they were some power couple on vacation. Shout out to the zoom lens I panic bought on Amazon, best $139 I ever spent. I found social media screenshots too. Even though they kept things subtle, Miles couldn't resist the occasional flex. A post about buying someone special a $5,000 bracelet. Designer bags, too. I recognized one of them on Jenna's arm a week later. And the worst part? It had been going on for almost a year. A year. While I was busting my ass expanding my company into 2 new counties, my wife was out test driving her new husband. But it didn't stop there. One night, I was checking the live security feed from my phone while working a late shift on site. I nearly dropped the damn thing when I saw Jenna in my home office. She wasn't just snooping, she was documenting. She was taking pictures of contracts, client lists, sensitive financial data. She even found the notepad where I kept my login info and photographed that too. I came home later and acted normal. Waited until she was pouring herself a glass of wine and said casually, "Hey, were you looking for something in my office earlier?" I saw the door open. She didn't even flinch. "Oh, yeah," she said, sipping her wine like nothing was off. "I thought I'd lost the insurance paperwork. Just wanted to double check." I nodded. "Gotcha. Let me know if you still need it, I can help find it." Inside, I was boiling, but I didn't show it. I knew I had to stay cool until I could make my move. That night, I called Caleb, my old buddy from college and one of the best divorce attorneys in the city. Caleb isn't some sleazy billboard lawyer with a fake smile. He's the kind of guy that other lawyers fear. The guy who never blinks, never loses, and doesn't flinch at messy cases. We met the next morning over coffee. I laid everything out for him. The affair, the coaching, the footage, the photos, the passwords, the blatant planning to bleed me dry. Caleb didn't even blink. He leaned back, hands steepled. "Well," he said with a smirk after reviewing a few of the clips, "looks like Jenna messed with the wrong guy." Then he leaned forward, his tone sharpening. "But before we go nuclear, tell me, do you guys have a prenup?" After that first meeting with Caleb, after I laid it all out and saw just how deep Jenna and Miles's plan, when I made a call I never thought I'd have to make. I dialed my dad. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, son, everything all right?" I didn't even know where to start, but I took a breath and dove in. I told him about Jenna, the affair, the hidden credit card, the camera footage, the phone records, the scheming. "Miles." There was a long silence after I finished. The kind of silence that stretches just enough to let you hear everything that isn't being said. "Looks like that prenup you made me get is going to save my butt," I finally said, trying to sound a little lighter than I felt. I could practically hear him chewing on his response. I knew he wanted to say "I told you so." And honestly, he had every right. "Dad," I said, sighing. "Just say it. You were right." He let out a small chuckle, but it wasn't the kind that comes with a smirk. It was bitter. "Son, I've never wanted to be wrong about something so badly in my life." That hit harder than I expected. He wasn't rubbing it in, he was just sad. Sad his kid was going through this. Then the old man shifted gears into full-on dad mode, voice firming up, dropping wisdom like he always does when I need it. "You know, I went through something like this years ago," he said. "Not with your mom, she's still the only woman who can put up with me for 45 years. He chuckled again, softer this time. "It was my old business partner," he went on. "Guy tried to gut me after years of building together. Thought he could just take what we made and start fresh without me. People like that, they're out there. But you never expect it to be someone you sleep next to every night. That line, it hit me in the chest. Because he was right. I'd have bet everything on Jenna's loyalty. Turns out I almost did. That's when it really sank and we did have a prenup. I remembered the day I brought it up. My business was just barely off the ground back then. A couple of guys, a beat-up truck, some tools, and more hustle than sense. But Dad insisted. He'd seen too much. Been through too much. He made sure I didn't walk into marriage blind. I remember sitting with Jenna at this little cafe downtown, palms sweating, heart thudding in my chest. I hated even bringing it up. I didn't want her to think I didn't trust her. But when I finally got the words out, she just smiled, took a sip of her latte, and said, "Sure, whatever. It's just a piece of paper, right?" Then, like it was nothing, she flipped her phone around and started showing me pictures of wedding venues. At the time, I thought it meant we were solid. That she didn't care because she wasn't in it for the money. She signed it easily, smiled the whole time, like she was doing me a favor by humoring my dad's old-school paranoia. I'd almost forgotten about that prenup, because I never thought I'd need it. Apparently, Jenna forgot about it too. Or maybe Miles convinced her it wouldn't hold up in court. Either way, I gave Caleb the documents. He combed through every clause like a surgeon. When he finally looked up, he gave me a sharp nod. "This is good. Solid. Detailed. Covers everything you brought into the marriage, everything you built after." But, he raised a finger, "We need to be careful." I narrowed my eyes. "Careful how?" "If she can prove emotional abuse or abandonment," Caleb said, tapping the file with his pen, "a judge might throw this out. Especially in a sympathetic court. So we can't give her anything she can use against you." And that's when we started mapping it out. We'd let her think the plan was working. Let her and Miles feel comfortable. I'd keep playing the part of the clueless husband. Keep going to work. Keep smiling. Keep sleeping next to the woman who was plotting to destroy me. All while Caleb and I quietly, methodically, prepared our counterattack. So for the next few weeks, I played the part. I was the perfect husband on the surface. Brought home flowers for no reason, like some guy out of a rom-com. I suggested date nights, even ones at her favorite places. She declined most of them, of course. "I'm tired," she'd say, or "not feeling well tonight." I didn't push. I didn't react. I just smiled and nodded. But I made damn sure other people saw me trying. Friends, neighbors, my sister, when she dropped by one evening. All witnesses to the man who was trying to save his marriage. Behind the curtain, though, I was securing the castle. I moved every important business document out of the house and into a locked file cabinet at my office. I changed every password, banking, cloud storage, emails, everything. I opened a separate bank account under my business name and started slowly shifting certain liquid assets legally. Mind you, with Caleb's green light. Everything would be fully disclosed during the proceedings. I wasn't hiding anything from the court, just from Jenna. I also kept documenting everything. Every time she claimed to be at yoga and was actually sipping wine with Miles at some rooftop bar, logged. Every time she withdrew a suspiciously large amount of cash from our joint account, screenshotted and logged. Every phone call, every message, every lie. Stored, dated, backed up. The whole time, she thought I was clueless. She probably laughed about it with Miles. "He has no idea," I imagined her saying. "He's too wrapped up in his work to notice anything." She thought I was the same guy who used to leave my car keys in the fridge when I was exhausted after a 16-hour shift. An easy mark. Well, she thought wrong. Then, about a month into my quiet war, the universe dropped the cherry on top. A gift, wrapped in pure stupidity. She left her email open on our shared computer. I sat down just to check some work files, and there it was bold at the top of the inbox. Subject, divorce strategy. Sender, Jenna. I didn't breathe. Didn't blink. I opened the email. Screenshots. Instantly. Click, click, click. The message to Miles spelled everything out like a playbook for betrayal. She was going to wait until Walker Construction wrapped up our biggest project to date. One I'd been pouring blood, sweat, and caffeine into for the last 8 months. Once that final payment hit, she'd file for divorce. She was going to claim half of it all. The business, the properties, the retirement accounts, even the tools, for God's sake. There was more. She wrote about how once she secured her share, they'd pack up and move to another state. Fresh start, she called it. As if gutting someone's life was just page one of some romantic adventure. That was it for me. I had everything now. Evidence, timeline, motive, intent, audio, video, and now, a signed confession, practically. Time to meet with Caleb. We sat in his office 2 days later, surrounded by files, footage, and the growing list of receipts I'd built. She thought she could outmaneuver a builder, I muttered. Caleb just shook his head, smiling faintly as he sorted through the screenshots. Jenna thought she was clever, but she's walking straight into a buzzsaw. Then he asked me something that stuck with me. Do you think she really forgot about the prenup? I'd been wondering the same thing. Because here's the thing, not only had she not forgotten about it, she and Miles had actively been trying to figure out how to get rid of it. When I finally dug deeper into her email account, I found the thread. Exchanges between her and Miles, trading legal nonsense like candy. Miles wrote, "Prenups get thrown out all the time. We'll argue you signed under duress. He pressured you into it. It was unfair. One-sided. Boom, invalidated." Jenna was eating it up. No hesitation. She believed him completely. She had so much faith in Miles's legal expertise, she didn't even bother to check the prenup herself. She thought she was one step ahead of me. That smug little smirk she wore the day it all started, God, I can still see it. Like she was already counting the money in her head. What she didn't know was that she was about to get absolutely schooled. Anyway, back to the story. By the time Jenna made her move, Caleb and I had been preparing for 6 solid weeks. We weren't just ready, we were loaded. Video footage, text messages, emails, bank statements, credit card bills. We had a mountain of evidence proving the affair and their entire conspiracy to screw me over in the divorce. Then it happened. One evening, I walked through the door, covered in drywall dust and sweat from a long day, and there she was, waiting in the kitchen like some cheap drama villain, leaning against the counter with that weird, smug grin on her face. "We need to talk," she said, and slid an envelope across the kitchen island like she was serving a royal decree. I picked it up slowly, like I was confused, like I had no clue what this could possibly be. Opened it. Divorce papers. I scanned through the contents while she stood there, watching me like a hawk, waiting for the reaction. The demands were laughably predictable. Half of my business. Alimony for life, no less. The house. Even my truck. It was, on paper, a financial bloodbath. "I'm not happy anymore," she said, in this tone that sounded like she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. "I think we both know this isn't working." I looked up at her slowly, played it like a man trying to understand. "Can I ask why?" I said. "Is there someone else?" "No." She didn't even flinch. Lied right to my face. "I just feel like we've grown apart. You're always working, and I need more from a relationship." I wanted to laugh, or scream, or drop a stack of screenshots on the table and ask her if Miles helped her draft the script. But I didn't. I stuck to the plan. I nodded slowly, said I needed some time to process. Then I walked outside and made a call, not to my parents like I told her, but to Caleb. "It's game on," I told him. The next few weeks were surreal. We were still under the same roof, but barely spoke. She was out late constantly, not even pretending anymore. I'd catch her looking at her phone with that dreamy little smile, probably texting Miles about how well their plan was going. Meanwhile, I was actually working my ass off. I had a huge commercial project on the edge of completion, one that I knew she was just waiting to cash in on. One night, as I came in from a late site inspection, she looked up from her laptop and said, "It's good you're focused on work right now. Finish what you need to finish." The subtext was crystal clear: finish the West Side project, so I can take half. Caleb and I filed our response to her petition shortly after. On paper, it looked like we were going along with most of it, just asked for some time to properly value the business. That bought us the time we needed. We let her believe she had the upper hand, while we built the perfect legal counterstrike. The court date was set for 3 months out. That gave us room to maneuver. I kept moving money between accounts strategically, legally, and with full documentation. Every transaction backed up and approved by my lawyer. I closed out the West Side project, got paid, and then did exactly what I told Caleb I'd do: reinvested most of it into the business. Equipment upgrades, subcontractor bonuses, expanded storage space. All legit. Weeks passed. Then, one night, Jenna finally noticed. She stood in the kitchen, arms folded, trying to sound casual, but failing miserably. "Where's the money from the West Side project?" she asked, clearly trying not to sound accusatory. I didn't even look up from the invoices I was sorting. "Had to buy new equipment," I said casually. "Business expenses." Her face twitched with anger, just for a second. She caught herself, but I saw it. She wanted to demand answers. Where's the money? Why's the account low? But she couldn't. Not without tipping her hand that she'd been watching everything with divorce in mind. So instead, she pursed her lips and walked away like she didn't care. But I knew better. As the court date crept closer, Jenna got bolder, more confident. She started moving some of her stuff out, casually mentioning she was looking at condos downtown. She even started talking about her half of the furniture, the kitchenware, hell, even the stupid paintings in the hallway she never liked in the first place. She was already spending money she didn't have yet. That's how sure she was. The night before court, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I wasn't nervous. I was wide awake because I couldn't wait for it to be over. I couldn't wait to finally shut this whole circus down. I just wanted to see the look on her face when it all came crumbling down. That morning, Jenna spent 2 full hours getting ready. Hair done, Makeup flawless, some expensive blazer and skirt combo she must have bought just for the occasion with my money, of course. She looked like she was walking into a business meeting where she was about to close a multi-million-dollar deal. Poor thing. Had no idea she was dressing up for her last happy day. We drove separately. I pulled into the courthouse lot and spotted her right away standing outside with Miles. They were huddled together like high schoolers planning a prank. As soon as Miles noticed me walking up, he peeled off and disappeared inside. Coward couldn't even look me in the eye. Inside, it was quiet and tense. Jenna sat on one side of the room with Miles, both of them all buttoned up and smug like they'd already won. I sat on the other with Caleb. Calm. Ready. Jenna kept glancing over at me with this little half-smile. That smug, pitying look like she was thinking, you poor idiot. You don't even know you're about to lose everything. Let her smile. Then the judge entered, a sharp-eyed older woman with silver hair pulled into a bun and a no-nonsense expression. She looked like she'd seen it all and didn't suffer fools gladly. She called the court to order. Miles stood up first, adjusting his jacket like he was about to walk onto a movie set. Your Honor, he began, putting just enough sadness into his voice. My client has been left financially stranded due to Mr. Walker's selfish actions. I clenched my jaw so tight it ached. I bit down hard enough on my tongue I wouldn't be surprised if I drew blood. Miles kept going. She dedicated years of her life to supporting this business, only to be cast aside when it became successful. What a joke. Jenna hadn't set foot on a job site. She didn't know how many employees I had. Couldn't name one of them. Never answered the phone for clients. Never picked up a tool. Never helped quote a job. Nothing. She gave up career opportunities, Miles said, practically mourning into the microphone. She provided emotional support. She maintained the home so Mr. Walker could focus on his work. That one actually made me laugh a little quietly, to myself. If by emotional support he meant passive-aggressive comments about me working too much and spending too little, then sure, I was swimming in it. Then came the punchline. As compensation for her contributions to the marriage, he said, now shifting into gear, my client is requesting half of Walker Construction, currently valued at approximately $4.2 million. Additionally, the marital home valued at $850,000 monthly alimony of $11,200 and various other assets, including investment accounts. I watched Jenna out of the corner of my eye. She was nodding along slowly like the judge was just supposed to rubber stamp all of it. The total? It would have gutted me, bankrupted me. Everything I'd built since I was 24 years old would have been split, handed over, and burned to the ground. Miles closed his statement like he was unveiling a masterpiece. Your Honor, my client simply wants what's fair after 7 years of partnership. And then the judge turned to our side of the courtroom. Counsel for the respondent, she said. Your statement. I sat perfectly still. This was it. Caleb stood up slowly. Calm. Measured. He adjusted his tie. And Jenna? Jenna had no idea what was coming. The courtroom was dead silent as Caleb rose from his seat. Jenna still wore that smug little smirk, the kind of look you'd expect from someone mentally redecorating their new beach house. And Miles, he stood tall beside her, smooth and sharp like a shark in a tailored suit, confident they'd already won. Caleb, calm as ever, flipped through his file like he had all the time in the world. Then he said, in the most composed and professional tone, Your Honor, there appears to be some crucial information that was omitted from the petitioner's presentation. The judge, giving a slow nod, said simply, proceed. Caleb reached into the folder and produced the prenuptial agreement. My prenup, the one Jenna and Miles had convinced themselves was invalid. He stepped forward and handed it to the judge. I turned slightly just to watch Jenna's reaction. That smirk of hers twitched. Her brows creased. I could see her lips part, slightly confused. In 2 seconds flat, she went from queen of the courtroom to completely off balance. Miles leaned toward her, whispering rapidly in her ear. Her eyes darted to the judge, then back at Caleb. But Caleb wasn't finished. Additionally, Your Honor, he said, reaching into his briefcase again, we have evidence to support not only infidelity, but conspiracy to defraud. Now the judge sat up a little straighter. I glanced at Jenna. She wasn't smirking anymore. She was blinking rapidly, breathing heavier. Caleb held up a USB drive and said, with the court's permission, we'd like to present video and digital evidence to support our claims. The judge agreed. The clerk moved to set up the monitor. Jenna's panic was visible now. She shook her head, almost involuntarily. This is private, she tried to say, standing halfway from her seat. Sit down, Mrs. Walker, the judge ordered, sharp and firm. And just like that, the video began. The first clip played. Jenna and Miles in my living room, our living room, talking about how to get around the prenup and take half the business. The audio was crystal clear. Miles said something about timing the divorce with the big project payout. Jenna giggled. I didn't move, just kept watching her. The next clip showed Jenna taking photos of my confidential financial documents from my home office. Then a series of messages, screenshots from her email and texts where they were discussing exactly how to make it look like she'd been forced into signing the prenup. Jenna turned to Miles. "Do something," she whispered. Miles stared straight ahead, lips tight, jaw clenched. More clips played. More messages. More damning evidence. The room was silent. You could hear the faint hum of the monitor. With each clip, Jenna shrank a little more in her seat. Her hand came to her mouth, then her chest. Her breathing grew uneven. At one point, she reached for Miles, who gently pulled away. And him? Miles's face had gone pale. That confident posture collapsed into pure dread. He knew. The judge's face changed too. That neutral, judicial mask gave way to something colder. Disgust. Disappointment. It was subtle, but I caught it. By the time the final clip faded off the screen, Jenna looked like she might faint. Her hands were shaking. Her mouth was open, but no words came. The judge cleared her throat and said, "Counsel, do you have any response to this presentation?" All eyes turned to Miles. He didn't even bother trying to object. He quietly closed his briefcase, clicked the latch, and said, "Your Honor, my client will be withdrawing her financial claims." Just like that. Jenna turned to him, eyes wide. "What?" she whispered. "Miles, no, we can still." With the evidence presented. He cut her off without even looking at her. "We have no grounds to contest the prenup." The judge gave a single nod. She didn't need to hear more. Jenna's mouth opened again, but no words came. Her hands fluttered in the air like she was trying to grab something invisible. "Your Honor." Wait, she tried one last time. The judge raised a hand. "Enough." From there, it moved fast. The judge's ruling was swift. Precise. Brutal. "All financial claims are dismissed," she said, her voice cold and final. "The prenuptial agreement is upheld. Divorce granted on the grounds of adultery." It was done. Jenna would walk away with exactly what the prenup outlined. Her personal belongings and a small settlement. Barely enough to last her a year with the way she spent. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Jenna didn't flinch. She just sat there, stunned, staring straight ahead like her brain couldn't catch up with what had just happened. All that time. All the scheming. All the whispered plans and backroom promises. And in less than an hour, it was all over. She didn't get my business. She didn't get the house. And she damn sure didn't get the alimony she was counting on. Nothing. As Thanos would say, all that for a drop of blood. Except in Jenna's case, she didn't even get that. I walked out of that courtroom like a boss. Straight back, head high, not a single glance backward. The moment the gavel dropped, I was already free. She tried to catch up to me in the hallway. Her heels clacked behind me, fast and uneven, like she was running on panic. "Hudson, wait. Please," she cried. Her mascara was running, her face blotchy. She looked wrecked. I didn't say a word, just kept walking. She reached for my arm. "Please, I didn't mean for it to go this far. We can talk, just let me explain." I stopped for half a second, turned slightly, and looked her dead in the eye. There's nothing left to say. Then I walked out the door, leaving her standing there in a courthouse hallway, holding the ruins of her own mess. The aftermath was as straightforward as it gets. The court gave her 2 weeks to get her stuff out of the house. She called me that same night. First it was crying, "I'm sorry, I messed up, please talk to me." Then it turned to apologizing, then threatening. Flip-flopping between heartbreak and rage like she couldn't decide whether to beg or burn everything down. I blocked her after the first day. When she came by to get her things, I made sure to have 2 of my buddies there as witnesses. I wasn't about to give her an inch or risk any drama. She looked awful, like she hadn't slept in days. Her face was puffy, hair a mess, clothes hanging off her like she just didn't care anymore. For a moment, just a brief flicker, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the video of her and Miles laughing in my living room. I remembered her pawing through my files, plotting to steal the life I'd built. Any shred of sympathy vanished on the spot. She took her clothes, her jewelry, and whatever personal items she could fit. 5 suitcases and a couple of boxes. That was it. From dreaming of millions to schlepping out with bags like a failed vacation. It was pathetic, honestly. The funniest part? She had already put down a deposit on a luxury condo. Assumed she'd be rich by summer, sipping champagne and redecorating. She lost that deposit, of course. And on top of that, she had racked up massive credit card debt buying new furniture, designer clothes. All for a new life she thought she was guaranteed. All legally her problem now, not mine. And Miles? Turns out his law firm didn't appreciate finding out one of their partners was sleeping with a client and helping her commit fraud. Especially when the evidence was crystal clear. Caleb made sure the State Bar Association got everything. Last I heard, Miles was facing an ethics investigation. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. The whole experience? It changed me. No use pretending it didn't. I'm more cautious now, more guarded. Trust doesn't come easy. Not after what I saw, what I lived through. But my business? My business is doing better than ever. After the divorce was finalized, I poured every ounce of energy I had into Walker Construction. Landed 2 major commercial contracts within 6 months. Brought on new hires. Expanded our reach. I even sold the house, couldn't stand being in that place anymore. Too many memories soaked into the walls like mold. I bought a smaller place closer to my main office. Not as fancy, but it's mine. Every brick, every tile, every key mine. Some friends tried setting me up a few months later. I gave it a shot. Went on a couple dates. But I wasn't really into it. Couldn't relax. Couldn't shake the instinct to second-guess everything. That kind of betrayal doesn't just wear off. Maybe someday. But not now. For now, I'm good. Focused. Building something solid. Something honest. And actually, I'm pretty damn good. Oh, and I got a dog. Named him Pickle. Wasn't a planned addition to my life. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I was at a job site checking on a foundation pour normal day. Nothing out of the ordinary when this mangy little mutt wandered onto the property. He was a mess. This weird greenish-brown color from rolling around in God knows what. Skinny as heck, ribs showing. One of my crew reached for a stick to shoo him off. I got it, I said, waving the guy off. I knelt down and tore off a chunk of my sandwich. Here, buddy. The little guy inched closer, cautious, then snatched it like he hadn't eaten in days. He just sat there after, staring up at me like I'd handed him the keys to the kingdom. No collar. No tag. Later that day, I took him to the vet. Still smelled like something fermented. Turned out the stains all over him weren't pickle juice like I'd first joked, but algae from the creek behind the construction site. They eventually wore off, but by then, the name had already stuck. Pickle. Vet guessed he was about 2 years old, some oddball mix of terrier, maybe a bit of chihuahua, and probably half raccoon from the looks of him. No microchip. No signs anyone was looking for him. I hadn't planned on keeping him. I'm just cleaning him up, I told myself. Get him ready for a shelter or something. That's it. But that first night, I was on the couch, flipping through emails when he hopped up beside me. Climbed right onto my leg, gave this long, exaggerated sigh like life is hard, then passed out cold. And that was pretty much it. Game over. Pickle sleeps in my bed now. Jenna would have lost her mind over that. She used to harp on about dog boundaries like she was raising show poodles in Buckingham Palace. Pickle doesn't care. He comes to work with me most days, rides shotgun in the truck, his head out the window like he owns the road. Clients love him. Makes people smile. And somehow he's got this bizarre talent for finding stuff. Dropped screws? Misplaced measuring tapes? If it hits the dirt, Pickle's on it. He's probably saved us hours of scavenger hunts on job sites. But the best part? Pickle doesn't give a damn about my bank account. After years of Jenna making everything about money, vacation budgets, brand names, how I presented to her friends, there's something almost holy about a relationship measured in tennis balls and belly rubs. 3 months after everything, Jenna tried to reach out again. She sent this long, rambling email. Talked about how she'd changed, how she realized what she lost. I didn't respond. Some things can't be fixed. Some bridges? They burn for a reason. It's been about 6 months now since the divorce was finalized. I still hear about Jenna now, and then mutual friends, gossip here and there. Word is she moved back in with her parents for a while. Got some job at a boutique. Not exactly the high society divorcee she'd been imagining. As for me, life goes on. I'm even thinking about taking a vacation for the first time in years. Somewhere warm, somewhere quiet. Beaches, no cell service, just me and Pickle. And it's been a year and a half since the divorce now. Figured I'd share where things stand today. First off, my business has actually grown like crazy since all this went down. It's like the moment Jenna stopped draining my bank account, and more importantly, my mental energy, I could finally breathe. Focus. Really lock in on what miles is. We've expanded into 3 new counties. Even opened up a second office. That one felt huge standing in the new space with freshly painted walls and my name on the door, knowing it was all mine. No one riding my coattails or scheming behind my back. I've got almost 40 employees now. People who actually want to be there. And we're booked solid with projects for the next year and a half. It's almost overwhelming in the best way possible. But here's the kicker, the revenge part of this story isn't quite over. Remember how my lawyer Caleb sent all the evidence to the State Bar Association? Yeah, turns out helping your girlfriend defraud her husband while actively sleeping with her doesn't look great to the folks who hand out law licenses. After a pretty lengthy investigation, Miles got his license suspended for 18 months. 18 long months of no courtroom drama, no fancy suits, no shady representations. No idea how he's paying his bills now. But frankly, not my problem. As for Jenna, most of what I've heard comes through the grapevine. I don't go looking, but people talk. Apparently, After the courtroom disaster and moving back in with her parents, she decided to reinvent herself. Started an Instagram account. Tried to become some sort of lifestyle influencer. Yeah, Jenna, the same woman who once turned her nose up at those people online, was now hustling selfies and discount codes. She started promoting boutiques and tagging local businesses in every post. Last I checked, maybe 2,000 followers. That's being generous. Word is she's been begging for free stuff in exchange for exposure. Pretty sad. This is someone who used to walk through high-end stores with her card out before she even picked something up. Someone who didn't blink at dropping $5,000 in an afternoon. And now, chasing freebies and likes. But honestly, the most satisfying part didn't come from watching her fall. It came from watching their fake little fairy tale implode. A mutual friend told me Jenna and Miles tried to make it work after everything settled. Moved in together, some crappy apartment in a bad part of town. Didn't even last 3 months. They had a massive blowout. Apparently, once the money dried up, so did their love story. Big surprise. Miles, true to form, cheated on her. With some paralegal from his old firm. Poetry. In motion. Last month, I finally took that beach vacation I'd been talking about for years. Hawaii. 2 whole weeks. Left my laptop at home. Didn't even touch work emails except twice, and only because I was bored on the plane. Guess what? The business didn't collapse. The world didn't end. And I remembered what it felt like to actually relax. To sit in the sun, drink something cold, and not worry about betrayal or lawsuits or people trying to steal what I built. Life isn't perfect now, but it's good. I work hard. I'm surrounded by people I trust. I'm building something real, something meaningful, not just in my business, but in my personal life too. And at the end of the day, that's worth more than any amount of money Jenna tried to take from me. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.